Hello and welcome. This lesson is on atmospheric layers. Get ready to learn. We're going to find out about the different layers. Did you know air has several different layers? Earth's atmosphere is made up of different kinds of layers of air. Temperatures go down as you climb a mountain, but then they change direction and start going higher with the distance you go from Earth's surface, sea level. Did you know most of the air is close to the surface? Why is this important? Well, all the weather happens in the lower layer of the atmosphere. That's way down here. Here's a triangular section of the atmosphere. We're down here at sea level. And that's where all the weather happens, in the lowest part of the atmosphere, the troposphere. Now, modern airplanes fly above the weather, because who wants to be banged around inside an airplane because of air drafts going up and down and different wind happening when you're flying across different kinds of air pressure? The shuttle and the ISS, the space station, orbit in the thermosphere. That's way up here. And we are protected by a thin layer of gas called the ozone layer. Here's the ozone layer down here. Now, what's important to know about atmospheric layers? Well, let's start ground level, sea level. As you go up a mountain, the temperature gets colder. Well, that makes sense. We know this. It gets colder as you go up a mountain. And at the tops of mountain, many mountains is snow. The air pressure changes. It goes from the highest air pressure at sea level to lower and lower, and eventually, as you get out to space, goes to zero. Well, the atmosphere has different layers. And sometimes these layers protect us from radiation, and they're separated by the temperature shift. Down here in the lowest layer, as you go higher and higher up, look at the mountain here, as you go higher and higher up, the temperature goes down, down, down. But next, it starts going up. The temperature goes up when you're going higher from the Earth's surface. And then it shifts direction again and goes down, and then it goes up again. So, the atmosphere has layers. The air pressure changes in each layer. The some layers protect us from radiation, and the layers are separated by the temperature shift, the direction the temperature changes by. Now, all the weather happens in the lowest part of the atmosphere. That's in the troposphere down here. Modern airplanes fly in the stratosphere to avoid weather turbulence. Here's where, at the top of the troposphere and at the border of the stratosphere, It actually depends on how long the flight is, because it takes a lot of energy to get high up in the atmosphere. So sometimes they'll go above the clouds, above the weather, but not all the way into the stratosphere. Greenhouse gases shift the Earth's temperature. Industry, automobiles, trucks, cattle, all produce greenhouse gases, and that goes up into the atmosphere up here in the stratosphere. Shifts the temperature. And ozone protects us from harmful ultraviolet radiation. UV radiation, ultraviolet, just above the stratosphere. So that's right above here. It's all important parts to know about the layers of the atmosphere. Okay, let's talk about the specific parts. The exosphere, exo meaning outside, it's space. The thermosphere, here's the thermosphere. It's where the space shuttle is, it's where the International Space Station is. There's hot gases here, but there's not a lot of molecules of them. So while they're hot, there's not a lot of them. The mesosphere, it's where the meteors burn up, shooting stars. Stratosphere, it's where we fly above the weather. And the troposphere, the most dense part of the atmosphere. Most of the atmosphere, most of the molecules of air are here in this smallest part of the atmosphere. You can see this distance starts getting bigger and bigger with the different layers. And of course, the exosphere goes on forever. What's important to know about atmospheric layers? Here we go. The exosphere has no air. It's very cold. So we're going to go from the outside, from space down to Earth's surface now. The thermosphere has very little atmosphere, but it's very hot as you approach space because there's not a lot getting in the way of the radiation from the sun. The mesosphere. The mesosphere cools down as the air thins out. Remember, most of the air is down here in the troposphere. So as you go up, the air cools down again. The stratosphere. This is where the air heats up and becomes less dense but warms due to the sun. So as you're going away from the Earth's surface, there's less air, but it warms because of the sunshine. There's enough there to hold the heat of the sun. And then the troposphere loses heat as the air gets less dense. All our weather is here. So as you go from the Earth's surface, it gets colder as you go up, then it gets warmer as you go higher, then it gets colder as you go higher, then it goes warmer as you go higher, and then in space, it's very cold. Now, how to remember the layers in order. We've got the troposphere, the stratosphere, the mesosphere, the thermosphere, and the exosphere. Oh my goodness. Let's start where we are. With our feet on the ground, we're in the troposphere. So if we can remember this, Tropical storms make things exciting. That makes sense. Troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, exosphere. Tropical storms make things exciting. It's an easy way to remember the layers of the Earth's atmosphere in order. So, why is it important to know about the layers of the atmosphere? All the weather happens in the lower layer. Planes are designed to fly above the weather. Shuttle, when it ran, and the space station orbit in the thermosphere. And we are protected by a thin layer of gas, the ozone layer. Knowing about all this gives us more insight as to how the planet works and how we can make it safe. There's your lesson on atmospheric layers.